wrestling fans. My name is Brian Crazy, and you are watching the F brand of wrestling and entertainment here on YouTube.com. Thanks for tuning in once again. I am back with my review of the second longest running weekly episodic television show in history. That's right, Friday Night Smackdown for May 25th, 2012. It was a pretty good night on Smackdown. And before we get started, please check out the official website of the F brand at FightNationWrestling.com. My new Twitter at BrianCrazy2001, and also my new channel here on YouTube, Fight Nation Wrestling. So we start off the show with a recap of John Cena and Johnny Ace, their match at the Over the Limit pay-per-view, and also the situation between John Cena, the Big Show, and John Laurinaitis. The situation where Big Show got fired, then he was brought back, he helped Johnny Ace pick up the win, and he was rehired on Monday Night Raw to a very lucrative contract. Then the announcers posed the question, will Sheamus apologize to John Laurinaitis for almost mowing him down, running him down Monday night on Raw? Then Eve opens the show, the executive administrator of the WWE, and talks about Johnny Ace still being in charge of the WWE. And then she also poses the question, who will be the new #1 contender for Sheamus' World Heavyweight title? And this is when Alberto Del Rio comes out. He comes out and he wants to be the #1 contender. He goes on, talks for a little bit, and then out comes Randy Orton. Randy Orton polls the crowd who they want to see as the #1 contender. He polls for Del Rio, there's a lot of boos. He polls for himself, there's a lot of cheers. This brings out Kane. Kane comes out and says no one has the qualifications that he has, and he should be the #1 contender. Also, this is episode number 666 of SmackDown, and everybody knows what 66 stands for. And Kane being the devil's favorite demon, that's the connection there. Kane wants to be the #1 contender. So, Eve Torres then announces a huge three-way dance for later in the night to determine the new #1 contender for the World Heavyweight title. I thought this was a pretty good opening segment. I thought it was a pretty good way to open SmackDown. We got to see all the big faces, we got to see them interact a little bit, and we got to set up a huge main event for a little bit later in the night. Then we go into a recap of Christian's victory over Cody Rhodes at Over the Limit, where Christian became the 4-time Intercontinental Champion. And then we go into the next match. Well, it's actually the first match of the night, excuse me. Christian ended up picking up the win over Unico, and Christian had firm control throughout this match. I mean, it was a very good match. There was a lot of athleticism shown. Unico tried, being on the offensive, but he played mostly a defensive game here tonight, and it was a good match, don't get me wrong. Post-match, Rhodes come out and talks about restoring the prestige, to the Intercontinental title, and Christian ruined that. I mean, Cody Rhodes did. He had one of the longest title runs. He brought back the old title design, but unfortunately, Rhodes' run wasn't too eventful. We saw, a good feud with the Big Show, and we saw a pretty good feud with Booker T, but outside that, I would really like to see a lot more. Cody Rhodes has the potential. He's an incredible superstar, and I see him as future world title material. Then we go into a tag team competition. We see Titus O'Neil and Darren Young. They are a new tag team here on SmackDown. They've been very prominent on NXT for the last few months. They go against the Usos. Now, this is a good match. There's a lot of back-and-forth action. I did enjoy this. Titus O'Neil and Darren Young are successful after, I believe it was a backbreaker and then an elbow off the top rope, off the second rope, if I'm not mistaken. And then we go into a vignette hyping the return of Sin Cara. Now, this is a pretty cool video package, very well put together, and Sin Cara will make his return to the WWE on the June 1st edition of Friday Night Smackdown. Then we go into Ryback versus two local wrestlers, Brian Edwards and Kevin Bendel. One of these two guys has an uncanny resemblance to Barack Obama, and Ryback absolutely destroys these two guys. Ryback comes out sporting a really nasty black eye. I mean, the whole corner of his eye is completely bloodshot red, like there's broken blood vessels in his eye. I mean, the shiner he has is absolutely huge. I wonder how that happened. They didn't mention it. I could tell that they kind of even tried to, keep the camera off that bad eye. If you watch Friday Night Smackdown tonight, you'll know what I'm talking about. And he absolutely dominated and decimated these two guys like he has every other opponent that he's gone against since returning to the WWE as Ryback. If you guys aren't familiar with his former persona, Skip Sheffield, who was a member of the Nexus, it was a very, very interesting organization if you guys aren't familiar with what the Nexus was. And then we go into Santino versus Ricardo Rodriguez. Ricardo Rodriguez is the personal ring announcer to Alberto Del Rio, but he is an actual pretty accomplished wrestler. He wrestles down in FCW, but unfortunately tonight we really didn't get to see much. He did a leapfrog and he ran the ropes. That was about it. Santino Marella was in firm control for the rest of the match, and this was absolutely hilarious. This is match of the night, I kid you not, just for humor factor. It was good. It was good. It was nice. It was something light. Later on the night, we're going to have a killer three-way dance. So, I mean, right now, this is, it's something nice. It's something to entertain the crowd. It's midway through the show. If you've ever been to a SmackDown taping, you've already seen Superstars, you've already seen NXT, and now you're into SmackDown. So you've already been there for a couple hours. And it's nice to see something to cheer you up a little bit. Then we go into Sheamus versus Jack Swagger. Now, this is a good match, and I can see Jack Swagger returning to the world title picture very soon. Swagger is a former world champion. He's going against a current world champion, Sheamus, in a non-title match, and there's a lot of back-and-forth action. Swagger has what it takes. He proved it before, and I guess there were some issues backstage. That's why he was demoted down to the mid-card, and I think Swagger would be a great contender for Sheamus' World Heavyweight title, even if they just went back and forth at a couple pay-per-views, maybe even if Swagger didn't pick up the title at first, just to let him get back into that main event level scene and see what's going on. But to be perfectly honest, I like Swagger. Then we go into Damien Sandow versus Yoshitatsu. Last week, Damien Sandow refused to face Yoshitatsu, and this week he decided to square off against him. Yoshitatsu was trying to get the upper hand before the match even started. Damien Sandow's yelling at the referee to keep him back, Sandow just explodes, absolutely destroys Tatsu, hits the neck breaker, and picks up the win. Then we go into the main event. It is the three-way dance for the #1 contender for the World's Heavyweight title. Alberto Del Rio versus Randy Orton versus Kane. Kane makes his way down to the ring, and out comes Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan comes out with a steel chair and absolutely destroys Kane with the chair. I mean, he must have hit him 15, 20 times with the chair, and that incapacitates him for part of this match, but he does make his way back down, if I'm not mistaken. And then we see Alberto Del Rio successful. He defeats Sheamus and becomes the new #1 contender for the World's Heavyweight title. Post-match, we see Sheamus come down, hit the bro kick on Alberto Del Rio to close out Friday Night SmackDown. It was a pretty good night on SmackDown, in my opinion. I would have really liked to see a Divas match and maybe just a little bit more from the tag team division. It would have been bad if they stuck another tag team match somewhere within the night. But overall, I did enjoy SmackDown. I think that's the two things that the WWE needs to continue focusing on, is the Divas division and the tag team division. Thank you for checking out this video. Thank you for being loyal fans and subscribers of the Effing Brand of Wrestling and Entertainment here on YouTube.com. My name is Brian Crazy. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll catch you later.